30 years ago, a small group of people gathered in Adelaide to listen to a visiting Englishman talk about growing trees. At the time, it didn't seem significant, but as the song says, from little things, big things grow. In the 3 decades since it began, Trees for Life has helped transform parts of South Australia, as Mike Sexton reports.
There's a stretch of land on the Yorke Peninsula, a few k's from Port Vincent, that tells a story about persistence and restoration. In the late 60s, Wolford and Mari Parsons built a home here. It's officially called The Springs, but their kids nicknamed it Wally's World. And Wally's World became a successful cropping and wool operation.
Where we're standing now, there was bush and low bush on these sandhills. Rabbits were a problem, so we cleared the sandhills. It had low mallee and broom bush and things like that. Very attractive country, but farmers need to clear their land. I reckon it's about here that we took that photograph 5 years ago.
But while creating paddocks, Wolford Parsons inadvertently created a problem. Sections of his farm became wastelands as encroaching salt destroyed the soil and water.
There's huge tracts of salinity in this area. It's due to the type of soil and the clearing of the trees and shrubs that took the moisture before.
By the early 1980s, salinity was spreading like a cancer, and the Parsons were fast going out of business. So they decided they needed to start replanting trees to soak up the saline underground water. Their story was repeated around the state.
Anyone driving around the country in South Australia now will see there's so many cleared paddocks and erosion and obvious problems, but 30 years ago it was even worse, and people started to get really worried about the future of the state.
In 1981, a group of environmentalists decided to try to do something about it and formed Trees for Life.
Those early founders thought, how can we get sort of landholders growing? We can't expect them to take the full responsibility. It's really a joint sort of problem. What if we grew the plants for them and gave them to them and sometimes even helped plant them? Would that make it easier for the landholder in the country?
One of the first landholders to take up the offer was Wolford Parsons.
We ordered 500 trees, met the lovely lady and her son who were going to grow them for us. When we went to collect the trees, unfortunately, they'd overlooked the task at hand and the backups weren't as good, and we finished up with 40 trees.
Things have improved significantly since then, and the organisation estimates its volunteers have grown and distributed 30 million trees. The seeds are collected from virtually every corner of the state, and some need to be heated or burnt to simulate a bushfire to make the pods open.
Depending on the species, we use different methods to bring the seed out of the pod, extract it, separate it, and then we put it into the seed bank. We record where it came from and when we collected it, and then it's stored and ready to be bagged up later to be used by our propagators out in the field.
The Trees for Life seed bank contains almost 3/4 of a tonne of seeds, all of which are carefully assigned to one of the 40 zones across South Australia.
We ensure that the seed where we collect goes back to that zone so we don't cross zones over. For instance, if we collect Eucalyptus camaldulensis, which is the river red gum, we might collect it from Port Lincoln, and we'll also collect river red gum from up at Paringa near Renmark. We will never cross those zones over. The seed that comes from Port Lincoln always goes back there.
At the Trees for Life headquarters in an old Methodist church at Brooklyn Park, volunteers sort the seeds and distribute them to backyards across Adelaide, where even more volunteers propagate them.
I commonly meet people who can look up to the Adelaide Hills and point, they say, can you see that green patch, a little to the left over there? I grew those, and now they're, an established forest. And I think that's the real connection that, from this little seed, a few years later, they've got a 15, 20 metre tree.
The seedlings that have made their way to the Parsons property on Yorke Peninsula have been a vital part of the reinvention of the farm. Along with the strategic planting of saltbush and lucerne, the seedlings grown in the city have thrived in saline conditions with an annual rainfall of less than 400 millimetres.
Over the years we've used throwaway nursery trees from friends at Yorktown, woods and forest, and we've planted exotic trees from other areas, and we've learnt that the trees for life from our local area are the best.
In addition to helping with erosion and salinity, there's another benefit of reforestation. When Trees for Life started, global warming was a little-known theory. Now the price being put on carbon offers more incentives for growers and property owners, and the organisation is keen to keep its science up to date.
We're working with the University of Adelaide on a research project with a number of organisations that look at the issue of where a plant is planted and whether it will adapt to higher temperatures, whether there's going to be a sort of a vegetation creep as species sort of move north or south with the weather.
It's great to see those melaleucas and things all regenerated.
30 years and more than 300,000 trees after they began replanting their property, Woolford and Mari Parsons won a national award for excellence in natural resource management. The effects of salinity being reversed as the farm and its environment become more productive.
Nice little surprise.
Yeah, it's a beauty.
It is,
And it's good to see them back. I never knew what birds were before. Now we've planted tree corridors and probably 350,000 tube top trees over our lifetime of tree planting, and it makes you feel good. It's a good feeling, and taking away the negative look.
Mike Sexton there.